Angelo Bruno always listed his occupation as a cigarette salesman, but law enforcement officials believe he was the head of a major organized crime family in Philadelphia. Last night, Angelo Bruno was found shot to death, gangland style, in the front seat of his car outside his home. Police said the 69-year-old Bruno was struck by one well-placed bullet behind his right ear. Speculation he was killed in a feud over who will gain control of the illegal rackets in Atlantic City.
Well, you should chuck me in, but just close the speed over there. I'll take him for one of their cousins. He is so cool.
Oh, he is taking my picture.
All right, off the steps. Everybody off the steps. Everybody off the steps.
Well, let the camera go. Respect the family. On here, would you please? Over here.
I'm sorry. That guy's cameras are going to fall. Get out of the way. Run him over. I'm right behind you. Keep quiet on that. Thank you. Well, you got what the fingers in first. All right, let's move it.
Right behind this. Can you lean into the floor?
Let's go. Let's go, babe. Let the family out, will you? Come on, move it back.
I'm letting them out. I'm letting them out.
We got limousines on the road here. Come on.
Get on that side over there.
Move it back. Let me on top of the car. Move it back. Like everybody. Move it back. Get over there, man.
All right,
Come on.
I'll get out.
Well, let's go back out of where we got cars on the road here. Move it back.
People get back, please. Turn around. Turn around. Let's go, fellas. Give us a break. Will you please let them cameras fall? This guy you better free yourself out, man. Don't worry. Okay.
No, it's a pit.
Go! Get back. What are you mad at? Get on the back.
People get back, please. Turn around. Let's go, fellas. Give us a break. Will you please let them convicts fall? If this guy can better free yourself out, man. Don't worry. Okay.
No, it's a pit.
Go! Get back. What are you mad at? Get on the back.
Subcommittee will be in order. Our next witness will be Mr. Nicodemo Scarfo of Atlantic City, New Jersey. Given the amount of testimony introduced before the subcommittee relating to Mr. Scarfo, the subcommittee has deemed it appropriate and necessary to call Mr. Scarfo personally and to provide him with the opportunity to respond to the evidence now before us. Mr. Scarfo's appearance is pursuant to a subcommittee subpoena. Mr. Scarfo, if you would please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony that you are about to give before this subcommittee is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yeah, I will.
Please be seated. I would ask you, Mr. Scarfo, in addition to giving your name and address, that you introduce your counsel.
Mr. Robert Simone.
And where does he practice?
You want him to answer that?
Yes, I would like the witness to answer.
Philadelphia.
Mr. Scarfo, where do you currently reside?
Your Honor, may I make a brief explanation of Mr. Scarfo's current status and position? I promise it will be brief.
Yes, with the assurance that it will be brief, we will permit it.
Mr. Scarfo is presently here pursuant to the subpoena. I had some communications with counsel for the committee, and at that time I advised counsel for the committee that Mr. Scarfo would be invoking his rights under the Fifth Amendment of the United States Constitution and possibly under the Fourth Amendment of the United States Constitution. The reason for the explanation is this, that Mr. Scarfo is presently involved in an appellate procedure in the Third Circuit Court of Appeals in which we are contesting the legality of a search of his premises in relation to a case that is pending on appeal. Certain records were taken from a drawer in his apartment, and that search is now the subject of a decision that is pending in the Court of Appeals. It's already been argued. So I wanted to explain why we would be possibly invoking a Fourth Amendment right as well as a Fifth Amendment right. Also, since Mr. Scarfo received the subpoena, certain agents of the Federal Bureau of Investigation came with a search warrant to not his home, but the office of Scarf, Inc. And you've already heard testimony that Mr. Scarfo spends a great deal of time in there. And with this search warrant, Mr. Scarfo's sister, who lives in the same building, Mr. Scarfo's mother, Mr. Scarfo, and others were not permitted to remain while the search was going on, and they were taken out of the building. We believe, although cannot prove, and we've heard nothing to the contrary, that the place was at that time wired or bugged. And as a result, Mr. Scarfo and myself, as his attorney, believe that possibly his Sixth Amendment right to counsel may have been infringed upon. And I just wanted to explain that to the panel. I understand he also does not have immunity.
No. Yes. First, I confirm that Mr. Scarfo does not have immunity. But we intend to proceed with the questions, and of course, you can take appropriate action, and we will review your objections at that time. Mr. Scarfo, where do you currently reside?
You can answer that question.
26 North Georgia Avenue, Atlantic City, New Jersey.
Have you ever been convicted of a crime?
I invoke my right under the Fifth Amendment of the United States Constitution and decline to answer the question. Want me to continue?
What do you do for a living?
I invoke my right under the Fifth Amendment of the United States Constitution and decline to answer the question.
Do you know Frank Gerace, the president of Local 54 of the Hotel and Restaurant Employee Union?
Same answer, sir.
What has been your relationship with Frank Gerace?
Same answer, sir.
Have you ever discussed Local 54 business with Frank Gerace?
Same answer, sir.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, he's giving this answer, same answer, just to save time, unless you prefer that he read his Fifth Amendment reason.
Are you saying that irrespective of what the question?
No, sir. He'll not irrespective of the question, but when he says same answer, he's referring to his Fifth Amendment right alone.
His Fifth Amendment right. Did you know Angelo Bruno and Phil Testa?
Same answer, sir.
What was your relationship with Bruno and Testa?
Same answer, sir.
Do you have any knowledge concerning the identities of anyone responsible for the murder of Angelo Bruno?
Same answer, sir.
Do you have any knowledge concerning the identity of anyone responsible for the murder of Phil Testa?
Same answer, sir.
Mr. Scarfo, why did you maintain the phone numbers of Frank Gerace and Sue Holland in a coded system of records?
I refuse to answer the question on the grounds of the Fourth and Fifth Amendments of the United States Constitution.
Did you know Robert Lumio?
I invoke my right under the Fifth Amendment of the United States Constitution and decline to answer the question.
What was your relationship with Robert Lumio?
Same answer, sir.
Did you ever discuss Local 54 business with Robert Lumio?
Same answer, sir.
Do you know any of the following individuals associated with Local 54? Al Diodone, D-I-A-D-O-N-E, Vice President; Eli Kirkland, Organizer; Carlos Lassane, Grievance Manager.
Same answer, sir.
Do you know Frank Latino?
Same answer, sir.
What has been your relationship with Frank Latino?
Same answer, sir.
Did you ever have any discussions with Phil Testa concerning the appointment of the consigliere for the Bruno family?
Same answer, sir.
Do you know any members of the Genovese or Gambino crime families?
Same answer, sir.
Have you filed income tax returns since 1975?
Same answer, sir.
Senator Rudman?
I wonder if you might tell us about the trial that you underwent in 1980. Just tell us what you were charged with.
Joseph Salerno's statement, testimony, and you were found not guilty.
I was charged with murder on the strength of Joe Salerno's testimony, and I was also found not guilty.
I understand that. You were acquitted.
Yes.
Who else was tried with you? Could you tell us that, please? Who are your fellow defendants?
Lawrence Molino and Philip Leonetti, which are also acquitted.
And the name of the deceased again? The man who was killed by someone?
Vincent Falcone.
Say again, please.
Vincent Falcone.
Could you spell that last name, please, just for me?
Falcone.
And was he a friend of yours?
I invoke my right under the Fifth Amendment of the United States Constitution and decline to answer the questions.
And how old are you, Ms. Scarfo?
53.
And where were you born?
Brooklyn, New York.
And how long have you been in the business of Scarf Incorporated? How long have you had that business?
I invoke my right under the Fifth Amendment of the United States Constitution and decline to answer the question.
I'm going to ask counsel to have Mr. Scarfo advise him again. Did he get your instruction correctly? I just asked him at what time Scarf Incorporated was in business. Did he understand your...
Yeah, the question presumes something that's not a fact, sir. Mr. Scarfo is not related to Scarf Inc. It's his nephew, Philip Leonetti.
I see.
That was the testimony.
I wonder if you might tell me how long the gentleman on your left, Mr. Simone, has represented you as your counsel.
A little before that. Yeah, about 5 years. 4 or 5 years, sir.
And do you own any real estate anywhere at all?
I invoke my right under the Fifth Amendment of the United States Constitution and decline to answer the question.
Well, are you currently employed?
Same answer, sir.
Do you have a safe deposit box anywhere?
Same answer, sir.
And did you see Ralph Natale this morning as he came into the building here?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Is he a friend of yours?
Same answer, sir.
How long have you known Ralph Natale?
Same answer, sir.
I think the record is replete and complete.
Mr. Scarfo, I have to state very plainly and bluntly that I'm disappointed. Disappointed that you have answered none of the questions propounded either by Senator Rudman or myself. You have sat here this morning and your name and involvement in matters under investigation by this subcommittee have been prominently mentioned and discussed. And we think it's important that you answer these questions. Now, the subcommittee is going to be continuing to proceed with these investigations, and we will take your taking the Fifth and other objections under advisement. I admit and recognize that you have a constitutional right to take the Fifth Amendment where it incriminates yourself, but very candidly, in any number of these questions, it's extraordinarily difficult to see why this action is appropriate. This will conclude the questioning of you, Mr. Scarfo. As I said, we will perhaps be back in contact with you. And the subcommittee is in recess until tomorrow morning at
Thank you very much.
10 o'clock.
Sir, your attorney, I need... Bobby?
Crazy. That's what I'll show it to you. Oh, man, I'm sorry. The city? Oh, that's IMONE.
Yes, IMONE in your first name.
This is your average inmate who steps out of prison when his sentence is up and then steps right into a waiting limousine. And Nicodemo Scarfo is anything but average, even by organized crime standards. Rita Braver has been investigating a family crime wave. Family ties that bind, family ties that kill.
In the West Texas desert today, a 5'5", 54-year-old ex-boxer finished serving 17 months in federal prison. Nicodemo, Little Nicky Scarfo, headed back toward Philadelphia, where he's alleged boss of the Mafia. And law enforcement officials are bracing for the next episode in a mob war that has left 18 men dead in the last 4 years.
What's new is the amount of violence, the murders that are occurring.
In a way, what's going on in Philadelphia is what's happening in La Cosa Nostra families all over the country. A change in leadership as younger, more aggressive members try to seize power. The difference is that here, they seem to settle matters more by killing than by consultation. It started in 1980 with Angelo Bruno, the aging and ailing Mafia chief.
How's your health these days? Not so good.
But it was a 12-gauge shotgun and not poor health that killed off 69-year-old Bruno. So the wars began, and of these 3 men who took control after Bruno's death, only Scarfo is left. Philip Chicken Man Testa, blown up by a bomb on his front doorstep. Frank Chicky Narducci, shot 10 times. Experts say what's at stake is control of numbers rackets, loan sharking, and drugs. Scarfo is said to want it all, and the battle has narrowed to his side, fighting that of old-timer Harry the Hunchback Riccobini. 2 of Riccobini's relatives found dead just last month. Scarfo appears to be winning, and now that he's out of jail...
As far as the murders, I think it's a matter of when they feel they've accomplished their ends. That particular problem with the other faction will cease.
There will be a close watch on what happens when little Nicky returns to the house he shares with his mom. The attention is not welcome.
Leave us alone. We're not bothering nobody. Leave us alone.
But law enforcement officials are not likely to let that happen.
A man reputed to be one of the most powerful mobsters in the East was accused in court today of ordering killing after killing, accused by one of his own crime captains. Anthony Mason is on the case.
Federal investigators say that since 1981, Nicodemo Little Nicky Scarfo has reigned over Philadelphia and Atlantic City as one of the nation's most violent mafia bosses. But the reputed Scarfo crime family may be about to crumble from within. Scarfo and a group of alleged underlings were rounded up on racketeering charges in November, and one member, Thomas Del Giorno, a capo or captain in the crime family, has made a deal with authorities.
He was in a position as capo to intimately know what Mr. Scarfo was doing, why he was doing it.
Today in federal court, Thomas Del Giorno broke the Mafia's vow of silence and testified that Nicodemo Scarfo is not only boss of the Philadelphia family, but that he has repeatedly ordered murders to maintain his power. He is the only one who can okay the crime of murder, Del Giorno said, and went on to list 14 hits ordered by his boss. Among them, Frankie Stale Stilitano, found stuffed in a car trunk in 1981. Frankie Flowers Delfonso, shot 10 times in 1985.
It would appear that this individual was eliminated.
Robert Riccobini, murdered in 1983.
Was shot in the back of the head, apparently with a shotgun.
The Riccobini faction had been feuding with Scarfo for years.
He won the war. The Riccobinis ended up not having anybody left on the street to fight their cause.
Even Salvatore Testa, a captain embraced by his boss in mid-1984, was found dumped by the road before the year was out. Del Giorno said he personally arranged the murder on Scarfo's orders. In 1982, Scarfo was called before a U.S. Senate committee.
What do you do for a living?
I invoke my right under the Fifth Amendment of the United States Constitution and decline to answer the question.
Today, Thomas Del Giorno began giving answers in a legal process that federal authorities say will keep Scarfo in jail for life. Anthony Mason, CBS News,
One of the
Philadelphia.
best-known reputed mobsters in the East is among 28 people accused today of running a drug ring. CBS News correspondent Rita Braver reports now on the latest federal effort to break the mob and the drug traffic and what led up to it.
Early today, federal drug agents in Philadelphia moved with speed to round up a network that allegedly dealt in speed. Methamphetamine, the highly addictive drug that makes the nervous system race. A 46-count federal indictment charges that since 1983, the Philadelphia mob family, reputedly run by Nicodemo Little Nicky Scarfo, controlled production and distribution of speed in Philadelphia, even import of P2P, the base chemical used to make the drug.
The indictment alleges that approximately 200 gallons of P2P were imported from Germany and from Belgium, hidden in air compressors and barbecue grills.
The Drug Enforcement Administration says that's enough to put $131 million worth of speed on the street. And cracking an organization that powerful took a special set of circumstances. A big break came last July at the federal penitentiary in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania. Inmate Steve Vento, a Scarfo family associate and major speed dealer, planned a prison break. This videotape, broadcast today for the first time, shows the helicopter Vento hired to swoop into prison grounds and spring him and a friend. But Vento had been set up by federal agents. Once caught in the escape attempt, he became an informant against the Scarfo gang. A few months later, this top Scarfo soldier, shown here on a surveillance tape with his boss, also became a government informant, as did a Scarfo lieutenant. They were both afraid of little Nicky.
They saw him kill some of his best friends that he grew up with in the mob, that they realized it was only a matter of time before it was them.
The information from informants was combined with data from extensive wiretaps at reputed gang hangouts like Cafe Lido and this VFW post. Officials gathered evidence that Scarfo and his crew used their reputations for violence to force street dealers into turning over 20% of all profits to the gang, and the drug trade brought pain to the whole community.
Society has been the victim of all of this. Those that have been weak in mind to use drugs.
Nicky Scarfo is now in custody on other charges. The federal government hopes today's case will put him away forever. In the meantime, the government today seized alleged spoils of the drug operation, Scarfo's Fort Lauderdale, Florida estate, Casablanca South. Rita Braver, CBS News, Philadelphia.
The reputed mob boss of Philadelphia, Nicodemo Little Nicky Scarfo, and 8 associates have been acquitted of the killing of a rival gangster. Bill Baldini of WCAU-TV reports.
It was the defense's day in the Sun when they heard that verdict of innocent. The defendants threw kisses, their families cried, and their lawyers praised the law.
That's what America's all about. You just saw what America's all about. They knew that these fellas weren't guilty, and they stood up to it, they sat, and they listened, and they did the right thing. God bless them.
At times, the family members were rendered speechless with joy.
What was the reaction when they heard not guilty?
The big question was, would the jury believe that Scarfo and his 8 friends conspired, then murdered former gang member Salvatore Testa back in 1984? 2 former members of that gang, Thomas Del Giorno and Nicholas Caramandi, said they did, but the jury did not believe Del Giorno and Caramandi.
Their name should not ever be put in the same sentence with the word witness again. The use of these kind of people creates crime rather than eliminates it, and rewards crime rather than punishes it.
The defense says it also had to overcome another obstacle, and that is the name and reputation of Nicky Scarfo.
The biggest hurdle is what happens before the cases. The fact that these people are branded before they go into the courtroom.
We tried to talk to prosecutor Barbara Christie or her boss, DA Ron Castile, but neither would comment. A spokesman for the office says Christie and Castile are very disappointed and don't want to jeopardize other cases by commenting.
Bill Baldini of WCAU-TV. By the way, Scarfo faces 2 other murder charges, and he is already serving 14 years for racketeering.
Not unexpected. He was never going to be a factor again. Was never going to come home. And I think there's some people who said, good riddance, and other people say, R.I.P., rest in peace.
George Anastasia extensively covered the Philadelphia Mafia for more than a decade as a reporter for the Philadelphia Inquirer. And while he never interacted with Nicodemo Scarfo, he learned much about the man heading the mob.
A lot of people say he's a psycho. I mean, he was terribly volatile, short-tempered, very violent.
Scarfo took over the Philadelphia crime family in 1981 after the murders of then-boss Angelo Bruno and his successor, Philip Testa. And Anastasia says Scarfo's management style as a ruthless regime leader led to his downfall.
For Scarfo, murder was a calling card. You know, right out of the gate, that's what you were facing. And that destabilized the organization.
Scarfo's reign ended in the late 1980s when he was convicted and jailed on multiple counts of murder, extortion, and other charges, largely in part due to the damaging testimony of some who worked under him, who then turned into government witnesses. A jury found Scarfo guilty of 9 murders and 4 attempted murders.
It's not so much the murders, it's about control, power, and money. Always about the money.
But that was then. In the wake of Scarfo's death, Michael Riley, who represents Scarfo's son, asked for privacy on behalf of the family.
You know, losing a parent, particularly a father, can be very, very difficult.
for an individual. So if people would just be gracious enough to understand that.
Now, Scarfo's son, Nicodemo Jr., is currently serving a 30-year sentence on gambling and fraud charges. Scarfo himself was serving a 55-year prison term and was not eligible for parole until 2033. At this time, no word on funeral arrangements. For now, live in the SAT Center, I'm Anita O, CBS 3 Eyewitness News.
All right, Anita, have not yet been released for former Philadelphia crime boss Nicky Scarfo. A family attorney confirmed to CBS Philly he passed away at the Butner Federal Prison Medical Facility in North Carolina. He was 87. Known as Little Nicky, he took over the Philadelphia crime family in 1981. Former Philadelphia Inquirer reporter George Anastasia covered the Mafia and discussed how the mob changed under Scarfo.